The Chicago Bulls are forced into an impossible decision when it comes to restricted free agent Josh Giddey. I am Shaq Barnes here with another episode of Bulls Digest, the number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls. I have noticed that 67% of you guys have watched the channel but not been subscribed. Please treat it like the Bulls intro and run through that subscribe button. But yes, the Chicago Bulls have been forced into a impossible decision when it comes to restricted free agent Josh Giddey is because it's pretty much how you play the situation. Do you pay him what he's asking for up front, or do you play the restricted free agent game and take the chance and just match his qualifying offer from any other team that offer him money? And the Bulls understand how impossible the decision can be. It's pretty much you got to take a chance either which way. Now, I know a lot of people are looking at this and saying, like, man, you see how he played that second half of the season? You instantly paid Josh Giddey money. But you got to also understand that Kobe White's contract up next season. And the Bulls executives addressed Josh Giddey and Kobe White contract, and pretty much they want to get both contracts done this off season. Josh Giddey contract is most likely to get done because of him being a restricted free agent, and another team can match him for his money. Kobe White, I think, will take the chance next season to go for a bigger payday. So if you up and just pay Josh Giddey exactly what he wants, then you got to pay Kobe White what he wants if he played the same way he played next season. Will we be back to square one with what we was with DeMar DeRozan and Zach Lavine? And with those two guys getting paid a high amount of money, are we will we still be a middle of the pack team, or will we actually move up and be better? That's the will to test. That's what we have to test to see. Now, let's get into Josh Giddey's asking price. Josh Giddey has a high asking price, and the Bulls are expected to pay Josh Giddey's lofty asking price. Josh Giddey didn't make the All Star team this season, but he's still on track for an All Star money. Per Joe Cowley of the Chicago Times, Giddey is seeking a deal that will pay him at least $30 million per season, and the Bulls are expected to pay it. That will land somewhere around 5 years, $150 million for 4 years. The former Thunder guard, who is suddenly looking like a future face of the franchise in Chicago, which for the second half of the season, we cannot deny Josh Giddey was one of the best players in the second half of the season post All Star break. Uh, there's no question, Crowley wrote, they're going to pay him. It's just a matter of when and the timing that could come fast. And like I said, the Bulls look like they're ready to pay Josh Giddey. So, but the decision gets deeper because Josh Giddey is a restricted free agent. But let's look into the Chicago Bulls team contracts. When it comes to the Chicago Bulls team contract right now, Lonzo Ball is the highest paid man on the roster this season, but obviously he took a pay cut for the next 2 years with $10 million per year, which will be a favorable contract to have Lonzo Ball on. Then that leaves us with possibly Nikola Vucevic, who is on a trade block. So if you get rid of Vooch, which we probably gonna trade him, Lonzo contract diminish. Patrick Williams probably be the highest paid big guy on the team until you go Josh Giddey. And if you plan on paying him that $30 million a year that he wants, Josh Giddey would by far be the highest paid player on the team. And with Josh Giddey getting the contract that he gets, who and depending on what we get for Nikola Vucevic in a trade package, will that move the needle of the Chicago Bulls? Because then, right coming up to the next season, you got Kobe White, who's going to be an unrestricted free agent, and he's going to be looking for a very, very hefty payday. And it's like, would you still just overpay both guys just to still be middle of the pack? And AK and the Bulls have already said they still want to be competitive. But have the Chicago Bulls learned a lesson when it comes to restricted free agency? I'm going to say no. But also, we're gonna look into the history of the Chicago Bulls when it comes to restricted free agency. Where one time they played good, and one time they did good, and one time they did bad. Um, but let's go deeper dive into the Josh Giddey situation. Have the Bulls learned their lesson ahead of Josh Giddey restricted free agency? The Chicago Bulls added Josh Giddey with 1 year remaining on his contract. The 22-year-old could have signed a rookie scale extension in the offseason, but a career worst year in 2023 and 2024 with the Thunder took that off the table. Not to mention, according to multiple reports, Giddey Camp reportedly wanted somewhere around $30 million a year annually. And see, this is where the a possible decision come in on what you do, what should you do, and what shouldn't you do. Because yes, Josh Giddey played like an all-star for a half a season, but the other half he was solid player. Because even with the Thunder, he had a rookie scale extension on the table, but didn't get it because he didn't play up to par. But now he came to Chicago looking like a face of the franchise or possibly a key player in the game when it comes to the Chicago Bulls. And don't get me wrong, Josh Giddey is a solid player. It's a solid player, but it's just the business of basketball sometimes when it comes to it. And when I talk about the business of basketball when it comes to it, we got to talk about one time when the Chicago Bulls handled the situation wrong. And that was with Patrick Williams. As we've come to learn over the years, what the Bulls should do and what they actually do are often worlds apart, 100%. Instead of remaining patient and allowing the restricted free agent process to play out, they proceeded to hand Patrick Williams a 5 year, $90 million deal before other teams had a chance to fork over an offer sheet. Heads were scratches around the league. That was a situation where they handled it wrong. And Patrick Williams, if you really want to go into what Patrick Williams has been giving us this season, he's giving you 9 points, 3.8 rebounds. We could give him 4, 2 assists, shoot 39% from the field goal, and 35% from three. And I'm being honest with you, when you really look at that situation, is that really worth what Patrick Williams is really getting right now? Let's be honest. No, it's not. It was just being honest about the situation. And it was a key thing said in this process. And AK just asked us for us to remain patient with him. So why you can't remain patient through the process? Remain patient and allow the restricted free agency process to play out. You might have to take that chance to do that, to see what Josh Giddey's getting on the table, because you do got to still build more and more pieces around this team to take this team to the next level, especially if we're not finishing at the bottom of the draft. And then also you got to figure out how this lottery going to play out, because we got a 1% chance of getting a top pick in the draft, the number one pick, and that is Cooper Flag, but I highly doubt we get that. But I think you should also wait to see how this draft plays out to see what can move on to the next level. And when it comes to Josh Giddey, like I said, Josh Giddey's second half of the season, outstanding. Should we just instantly pay him? I don't know. And that's why you see the hesitation in my voice, because I don't want to lose out on a player like Josh Giddey. But you have to play out the business of basketball. And if he's a restricted free agent, part of the business of basketball of a restricted free agent is just to see. Now, it's pros and cons of a restricted free agency. And so it's pros and cons of pulling the trigger early. Because here's a con right here with Patrick Williams. Pulled the trigger too early instead of seeing what teams were going to actually offer him. Possibly how Patrick Williams was playing, he wasn't probably going to get that $90 million deal nowhere else. We Bulls could have possibly paid him lower. Okay, pros. You can match any offer that any team gets. So if a team offer him any offer, you can get him. You can keep him. You can keep him. If another team offer him something bad, they call a poison pill contract, where they could probably manipulate the money and move the money up front and make it harder for you, or make you accept more money up front on the team, then yeah, you could possibly be on the bad end of it. But the one time that the Bulls actually did it right, I'm going to take it back to 2018 when Zach Lavine was a restricted free agent and he was trying to get over like 100 something million during that time, or 90 million plus, more than what he got offered. The Bulls let him test the market. With the Bulls letting him test the market, the only team that really offered him something was the Sacramento Kings. And with the Sacramento Kings being the team that offered him, they only offered him 78. And what the Chicago Bulls do? Match the 78 offer. So you got the star you wanted back and on a favorable deal when it comes to the team. So when you look at the Josh Giddey situation, I just think the Chicago Bulls probably need to play it out. You stuck in an impossible decision. So should you let it play out, or should you just instantly pay him? Josh Giddey looking like an all-star caliber player, but we have to be honest with ourselves. Two things that come into play. It was only for half a season, and we still was a middle of the pack team at the end when it was all said and done. So make sure you guys comment down below. Let me know what you think the Chicago Bulls should do in this impossible decision. Should we just pay Josh Giddey up front, or should we let the restricted free agency play out? And honestly, it's really only one team that's really the problem, and that's the Brooklyn Nets, because that's the only team really with that much money. But this has been another great episode of Bulls Digest. I am Shaq Barnes, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.